Brought to you by Source Forensics. Are you looking for a video conversion service? Well, look no further because I got one for you. If you are looking for fast, efficient, and honest, Source Forensics is your go-to. Since 2003, they have been converting weddings, baptisms, sports, and other videos. They have become a reputable and well-known video conversion service. Their team is up for every job, managing projects with the skill and experience their clients have come to expect. They want their customers to be satisfied with their work, which is why they provide open communication channels throughout the duration of each project. Trust Source with all your precious memories stored on various legacy formats, VHS tapes, DVDs, CDs, mini DVDs, cassettes, old vinyl, and 35mm slides. Whatever the job is, they got you covered. Contact them at 401-203-5019. Again, that's 401-203-5019, or visit their website at www.sourceforensics.com. Again, that's www.sourceforensics.com. Now for our episode. Ball and RI and the Rhody Runback are happy to bring to you the Sunday morning basketball recap show, hosted by Ramon de los Santos and Jeff Marone. Let's go. All right. Welcome to the Sunday recap show presented to you by Ball and RI and the Rhody Runback. I'm your host, Jeff Marone, and I am joined by my co-host, Ramon de los Santos. Ramon, how are you today?
Doing good, man. How's everything with you?
I'm doing great, man. Busy, another busy slate of games, and it's been absolutely crazy. I think last night there was 18 games last night total, and then I think 3 or 4 on Saturday.
Yes. Too many games on Friday. And crazy to think that the season is pretty much over right around the corner. But it's been great that we've been able to play this much, and it's been great to see the kids play. So looking forward to see who makes the playoff pushes.
Yeah, definitely. Very excited. So speaking of playoffs, we're actually going to cover do the playoff picture for those who are interested to see where everyone stands in the playoffs and probably potential matchups. Now that we know the season has been extended until the 23rd, and the first round starts on the 24th, and the finals are on March 7th. So we're going to be able to see that as well too. If I was going to end this week, and then we're going to do the playoff picture. Ramon's going to bring you his power rankings. Just to everyone know that the playoff picture could also change as long as with the power rankings. So we've got a few more games left to go. So just a busy Saturday night. We know we had overtimes, we had nail biters, we had someone join the 1,000-point club last night. We had a shakeup. We're going to have some shakeups in the rankings. So very excited to see it. What do you thoughts?
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I'm glad that they were able to extend the season, because I think one of the requirements to get into the playoffs is that every team has to get at least 5 games in, and there's some teams that were hit, by COVID or had to quarantine. So some teams really need these extra days to be able to get those games in, so at least have a chance to get into the playoffs. So I'm glad they were able to do that. Kind of sucks for some teams who only had games scheduled to this week, because now they have 10-day rest. So I think some teams are scrambling to schedule some non-league games. So hopefully we get to see some good action next week as well that we didn't expect.
Yeah. Hopefully some good games. You had kind of mentioned a sneak preview of something that we all kind of want to see as well too. So hopefully that game works out. But let's get into it. We're going to start with Division 3 with our, we start off with Davies versus Prout, 82-63. Davies wins this one. Davies, Raheem Rainey joins he's a 1,000-point scorer now. He joins the club. He had a 30-point game. He's just continued his scoring streak and being a beast in every game. And John Estes had 32 for Prout. What do you think? What are your thoughts on this game?
It was a good battle between two of the top scorers in Division 3. And I keep saying every week, Raheem just keeps doing it. He reached 1,000-point on a 3-pointer from the key. And the kid has just been playing amazing. And Davies has been winning. So they've been winning by a lot. And he's still getting his numbers. But John Estes is no slouch. So I think he scored 32, 34 points. He's been balling. It'll be interesting to see what kind of looks some of these guys get, because at the end of the day, right, they're trying to get through these high school season, but hopefully they're getting some looks. There's a lot of colleges that should be recruiting in Rhode Island. And these are 2 guys that they should be recruiting.
Yes, definitely. I fully agree with you on that one. Hopefully they are getting their looks. Then let's go to the Central Falls versus West Warwick. This one, West Warwick wins this one 64-53. West Warwick is led by Kyle DeSilvia with 16 points. And, West Warwick is another team that is also continuing to be one of the hot teams in D3 with Davies.
Yeah, no, so West Warwick was ranked number 1 preseason for Division 3, and you expect them to be that good this year. They had a loss at the beginning of the year that was kind of a little surprising, but they've been able to bounce back and just climb back up the rankings. So they're going to be a tough team, and they're going to be tough to face in the playoffs because they have a lot of different guys. They don't have one guy who scores a lot. They balance that scoring load, and they're a very good defensive team.
Yeah, they're very, very good. And then let's go to the St. Pat's versus Mount St. Charles. St. Pat's wins this one 68-53. Keith Wilson and Ricky Fonseca have led the team and scoring. They both combined for 54 points in scoring, to get by Mount St. Charles. Keith Wilson had a game of 29 points, 7 boards, 6 assists, and 3 steals, while Ricky had chipped in with 25 points. St. Pat's looks to be clicking on the right time, playing good team ball. I think that's 3 or 2 in a row for them. What are your thoughts on them and, their run?
Yeah, no, St. Pat's is a really good team, and I think they've always had Keith, and now, Ricky is stepping up as that second scoring option, which helps a lot. Like I said, in Division 3, if you have 2 legit scorers, sometimes that's enough to get it done, and they've been proving that. Mount St. Charles has had a tough up and down season. They have some games where, you're like, oh, wow, they beat that team. They're that good. And then, they lose to some people they shouldn't be losing to. So it's been a tough season for Mount St. Charles. But, yeah, St. Pat's is definitely clicking at the right time, and that's a team I wouldn't be surprised gets, definitely Final Four, maybe championship game in Division 3.
Yeah, they're playing really well, good ball. It's been interesting because I think there's been a couple times they played out without Keith, and I think now they're starting to kind of learn to play without him, and then play with him as with the same guys. The guys are stepping up as they go along.
Yeah.
Let's go to Moses Brown versus Paul Coffey School. Moses Brown wins this game 52-30. Moses Brown wins this one 52-32. Moses Brown is led by Christian Chase with 16 points, and now Moses Brown is 3-4 in the year. They're kind of on that playoff cusp, and they continue to make their run. So, what are your thoughts on them?
Yeah, so Moses Brown has a lot of young talent, but then they also have some seniors who've been there for a little while now. And they, they're winning the games they're supposed to be winning. And in a short season, that might be enough, right? So if you beat the teams you're supposed to beat, that might be enough. It's going to get you enough wins to get you in the playoffs. And once the playoffs start, anything can happen. So good to see my guy Christian Chase be, get 16 points. He's a veteran point guard now, but he's a good kid. He can get to the basket, can distribute the ball. He can shoot it he's a little streaky, but he can shoot it.
Yeah, definitely. And then let's go to some Saturday games. All right, yeah, that's fine with me. So let's jump to Saturday's games. We have Blackstone Valley versus North Smithfield. North Smithfield Blackstone Valley won this one 51-40. It was another battle for playoff position for the season as we get closer to the end. These two teams, and Blackstone Valley was able to get the victory here.
Yeah, no, definitely. Blackstone Valley, has turned it back around. So, they started the season without Xavier Mendez. They had a couple tough losses, and which in a short season, it's tough to get back, bounce back from those losses. But they've been able to keep winning, and they beat Greenwich recently. Now they beat North Smithfield. So they're in prime position to get into the playoffs. And like I said, once you get into the playoffs, anything can happen. And that Blackstone Valley team is legit. Like, they have Xavier, big guy in the middle. Jordan Mendez, a guy with good size, but could still shoot and handle the ball. And they have a lot of guards who can handle the ball and they can pressure it. So they're going to be a good team to watch in the playoffs as well.
Definitely. And then now we go to the other game on Saturday for Division 3 was Times 2 Academy versus Mount St. Charles. Times Square was able to pull out the victory 52-49. They're led by Jason Peters, who scores with 25 points. I mean, what are your thoughts on this game? I mean, Jason's also another player that's just been shooting lights out this season as well, too.
Yeah. Now, Jason Peters, I mean, since his freshman year, he's been, scoring in bunches, right? So, and like I said, this year he has help. So this year he has a couple good quality teammates who can, have some talent. So they're tough. So they're the number 1 team in Division 3 for a reason. Mount St. Charles gave them a good battle, but they were able to pull it out, and that's all that matters. Kind of survive, win, and move on. And so that's a big win for them, just to stay on top of those standings. And another great game for Jason Peters. He's been really good this year, showing that not only can he score like he's always done, but he can also distribute the ball and get others involved. So very good for him.
That's awesome. All right, Ramon, do you want to let's see those power rankings for Division Three?
Yes. Okay, on to Division Three. As always, remember the rankings are relative from the previous week. It doesn't just matter head-to-head records or who beat who, or we can beat them if we play them. It's about kind of relative who was already there and whether they move up and down based on the week they had. So for Division Three, a lot of shakeup, a lot of teams that made a statement and forced their way into Division Three rankings. So there's some teams that had been there and they had a loss or two. So somebody was able to take your spot if they had a really good week, and there's a couple teams that did have really good weeks. So with the number 5 spot, St. Patrick, they've been playing very, very well. They've been winning. They're clicking at the right time. I think they earned that spot in Division 3. 4, Blackstone Valley Prep, like we mentioned, they beat Exeter West Greenwich, which is a team that could have been in the rankings last week. They just kind of fell right. They were right outside the rankings. And then they also beat Mount St. Charles today. North Smithfield today. So that they've just been winning and kind of positioning themselves in a good spot to kind of get that Division 3 ranking. Rest of the way, you got West Warwick. No surprise, only 1 loss. They've been playing very well, beating all the other teams that maybe are not above them in their rankings, but beyond that, they've been beating everybody else. And then the number 2 and the number 1 spot stay the same till one of them loses. So number 2, Davies, number 1 times 2. They don't get to play each other, I don't think, before the season ends. But if they both win out, there's no way we can move one up or under unless it is what it is. They're both winning, so they end up in the ranking. What do you think about those, Jeff?
I think these are great. Honestly, I think this is good. I honestly feel like St. Pat's and Blackstone Valley are like maybe the teams are just catching hot, like getting hot at the right time right now. I feel like like you had mentioned before, Jordan Mendez and Xavier Mendez have been playing awesome ball for both of them. And then, St. Pat's clicking at the right time. And then maybe we'll get to see times 2 versus Davies in the playoffs. Who knows? I don't know, but they look good. Both teams look really good. I mean, they have some prolific scorers on both of those teams. It's going to be interesting. I think it's good. Do you have an outside looking in? There's like Moses Brown out there, Mount St. Charles.
Yeah. So Scituate definitely was kind of the tough team that I had to make a tough choice and leave someone out. So there were 6 teams that I figured should have been in the Division 3. There's only 5 spots. I don't do ties. So, I could have caught down and say, oh, there's a tie for 5th place now. Yeah. So Scituate could easily be on there. It's just, they just happened to lose recently when some of these other teams just been winning. So I wouldn't be surprised after the last week of the season, they get back in there after a couple wins. So we're getting close to the end of the season. Only one more season before the playoffs start. One more week before the playoffs start. So these rankings are starting to settle. Yeah,
it's crazy. It's good. I mean, it's been Division 3 is so close. I feel like it's anyone's game right now in Division 3.
Definitely.
All right. We can jump to the playoffs. Do you want to see the playoff outlook of the picture?
Yes, let's do that now.
All right. So before we show the playoff for Division 3, and then we'll explain Division 2 and Division 1 as well too. Division 3 playoffs rankings, the way it works, it's the top 3 teams for each league in that division. So if you're in Central and you're 1, 2, and 3, you are in the playoffs, and it goes by winning percentage as well too. So that's how they rank you, and then that's how you make the playoffs. So if you're in the top 3 in your league, that's how you make the playoffs by winning percentage.
And what we're showing today is if the season ended today, this is what the playoffs would look like. Obviously, there's still changes that can happen. There's still a couple, handful of games next week. So these will change. But I just kind of wanted to show you, what it would look like if the season ended today, just so you can see where some of the matchups may end up.
So here is the Division 3 playoffs outlook. This is what the playoff picture looks like today. Obviously, we have a number 8. Exeter West Greenwich versus North Smithfield, the number 9 seed. And then the winner of that game would go on to play Davies as the number 1 seed. 4 right now is Scituate. 5 is St. Pat's. Number 2 is Times Squared Academy. Number 7 is Blackstone Valley. And then we have 3 West Warwick and number 6 Prout. What are your thoughts on these potential matchups and what we could see in these playoffs?
No, there's definitely some interesting matchups here. Like just looking at this, even the playing game between Exeter West Greenwich and North Smithfield would be an awesome game. Just to see kind of those 2 teams who I think Exeter West Greenwich finally putting it together. So they would get a matchup against a tough, scrappy North Smithfield team that, a lot of people on paper may think like, oh, this should be a win. And, they've been a tough out for everyone. So that'll be good to see. And then they get to face Raheem and Davies. So that'll be tough after that.
Yeah.
But then even some of the matchups, like, if you look at that number 2 as that number 7, Times Super versus Blackstone Valley would be amazing to watch. Those are 2 really good teams, athletic teams. They have talent on both sides. So it'll be good I think that'll be a great game to watch. And then just as much, West Warwick and Prout. I think Prout had a tough week. They lost a couple games, but they're very capable. So it'll be a tough matchup against West Warwick. But if anybody could do it, it's those guys down at Prout. And then Scituate versus St. Pat's. I know Scituate feels a certain way for being left out of the top 5 rankings. So this will be the opportunity to show we should have been in there. So that'll be great to see them battle.
Yeah. I think these are all great matchups. I really feel like Division 3 I feel like all the games are going to be really good games, and anything's possible with this league. I mean, it's basketball, so anything's possible, period. But I feel like you said, that I think that Times Squared Blackstone Valley matchup is going to be awesome. I think there's a lot of good scorers on both sides on both teams there, and West Warwick Proud's going to be a good one. This potential of the playoffs were to end today. This was what it would look like. It'd be very interesting matchups overall.
And there still could be some movement, obviously, because like we said, some teams still have games. So these will probably all shift around by the time we have the next, show, when we have the final seedings. But I mean, just the way it's looking now, even if it was just these same 9 teams, there's going to be great matchups no matter who ends up playing who.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's stop. Let's move on to Division 2. Division 2. We're on to Division 2. Let's go right into it. East Greenwich versus Timberton. East Greenwich wins this one 78-27. East Greenwich has continued to roll. They are 7-0 on the season and remain undefeated, and looks like maybe one of the toughest teams so far. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, like I said, I mean, they had 2 tough matchups to begin the season. They had to play Pilgrim. They had to play Portsmouth, which is some of the top teams in Division 2, and they beat both of them. And then since then, they've just been rolling. And honestly, they probably have already played the toughest competition they're going to play for the rest of the year. So, they might end up the season undefeated, number 1 seed, which would be great for them. But yeah, they just keep rolling. I mean, they have, obviously Jack McMullen could score in bunches, and but they just have a lot of guys who can play basketball. And they play they look like they're having fun, very unselfish, move the ball a lot. So that goes a long way.
Yeah, definitely big time. And then we'll go to Burrowville versus Lincoln. Lincoln edges Burrowville in a crazy close game, 47-46. Lincoln is led by Preston D'Souza with 17 points and increasing their record to 3-1 and handing Burrowville over their first loss of the season. What a crazy game, huh?
Yeah, no, so Burrowville had been rolling, and this Lincoln matchup was a tough one, and I was like, wow, surprised that Lincoln pulled it off. I guess it was considered an upset, but Lincoln has been playing that good already. So great game. 2 great teams. Would be good to see them go at it again in the playoffs if possible. But big win for Lincoln, because I mean they only have 4 league games in. Obviously they're going to get another one in, but that's pivotal for them because they don't have the luxury of playing 5-6 more games. They have to kind of win the ones they're playing now to solidify a good spot in the playoffs. So that was a good game.
Oh wow, that's crazy. And then we'll go to Mount Hope versus Pilgrim. Pilgrim wins this one 75-41. Pilgrim is on fire. This is their 6th straight win on the season, as well as Tyreek Weeks, I think, has just been playing unbelievable basketball. Him and his teammates have. I mean, there's always someone out there with him, 17 or 20 points a game as well. So what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, Pilgrim lost to East Greenwich at the beginning of the season and has been rolling ever since, and they're tough. They're very well coached. They have a lot of talent. And yeah, like you said, Tyreek Weeks it doesn't even feel like he's been playing well. He's just been playing the way he plays. So it's just he's always going to grab, score 20 points, grab more than 10 rebounds, and he's just an anchor down there. And he gets honestly, watching them play, defense is focused so much on him. Like I don't even feel like there's any point in running plays for him. So he just gets his own points because they can't even run a play for him because there's always 2-3 guys around him. So it's just a matter of him going and getting his own points, which he does somehow, some way.
Yeah. And I think you had mentioned last week too, he scores like a quiet 20 or a quiet. You're like, you don't even realize that he put up 20 points because it's all like either on putbacks or something like that. It's very, very interesting.
He's playing really well, very, very well. It'll be interesting to see, obviously not to look too far ahead, but obviously in Rhode Island, he gets to play as a big man. But, at the next level, he's a wing player, which I'm sure he can do. So it'll be interesting to see how he continues to develop to be able to take that to the next level.
Yeah, very excited for his bright future of what's going to happen for him. Let's go to Tolman versus Cranston West. This game was also a great game. Tolman this is a big win for Tolman. They win this one by 4 points. They beat him 67-63. And Tolman improves on the season 5-1, and Cranston West is 5-2 on the season. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Tolman's been playing well. Tolman's been beating teams they're supposed to. They did, ended up losing this week. I forgot to who. Having a tough loss earlier this week. But that's a good bounce back win against Cranston West. Cranston West, another team was having kind of like an up and down season. They've been playing well overall, but once they get kind of going, they end up kind of losing against a team that would have been a pivotal win for them if they pulled it off. So that happened to them early in the year when they lost to Burrowville. They were able to put it back together, get a couple wins in a row, and now they face Tolman and end up losing to Tolman. So they have to kind of get it together before this playoffs start, because they got to be ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had a couple games today on Saturday as well too. We had Hope versus North Providence. North Providence got their first win, beating Hope by 8, 58-50. Antonio Albanese had 14 points in this one. What are your thoughts on this one for North Providence?
Yeah, also good. North Providence getting their first win. Obviously North Providence and Hope both have been having kind of a tough year, and one of them had to win.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was good. It's good that North Providence was able to put it together and pull it off. They have some good kids that can play. Hope, has that kid Juan Severino, who's really good. It's tough, when they don't have the depth maybe, but I think they're trying to build a program there little by little, and hopefully they can put it together.
Yeah, definitely. And then we have one more other game today for Division II, and that would be Portsmouth versus Carpentry. Portsmouth wins this one 49-45 in a close game, and Portsmouth is another team who's gotten hot early on in the season. Later on in the season as well too, as they increase their record to 7-2. What are your thoughts on Portsmouth versus Coventry?
Yeah, so Portsmouth, like we said, at the beginning of the season, those three teams, Portsmouth, East Greenwich, and Pilgrim, played each other. Yeah. And Portsmouth ended up kind of being the loser of that little 3-team series because they ended up losing 2 out of those games. But those are the only 2 games they've lost all year. Then they just went on a 7-game win streak. They've been on fire. They're climbing back up. And, if they were to play those 2 teams again, Pilgrim, East Greenwich, I don't think it's necessarily going to be the same result. Benny Hurd doing what he does. I think he had 32 points the other day. Ended up being pivotal today as well in a very, very close game. It was a close game from beginning to end. So big win for them because, that would have been a tough loss if they lost to Carpentry. Carpentry's kind of had a late start, been trying to get it together, but that's definitely a game Portsmouth should have won.
Definitely. All right, let's see your Division II rankings and where everyone stands if there's a shakeup, and then we'll go into the playoff picture.
Sounds good. Division II. So Division II, again, there was a lot of shakeup in Division II. A lot of teams who were previously unbeaten ended up losing. So, how much does that make them slide? Other teams that, started off kind of slow in the year have just been kind of scorching hot. Where do we slide them in when they jump back in the rankings? So there was a lot of decisions to be made in Division II, but this is how it all shakes up. A lot of teams looking from the outside in, but these are the 5 that made it. So number 5, Burrowville. They had the first loss of the year. It was a close one against Lincoln, a really good Lincoln team. So Burrowville ends up with that 5th spot. They dropped like 2 or 3 spots from last week, but they're still on there. They're still a very good team, only have 1 loss in the year. There's a lot of other teams that have only 1 loss in the year, but Division II is that top heavy, so it's tough to get 5 teams. Number 4, Lincoln, that big win over Burrowville kind of jumps them into the rankings and kind of puts them ahead of Burrowville. They both have 1 loss, but they, the head-to-head matchup just between those 2 kind of works out that way. Even though head-to-head doesn't always make the final decision, in this situation, I think that's what kind of put Lincoln over Burrowville. Then the top 3 teams, Portsmouth jumps back into the rankings. They had been out for a couple weeks. They've done nothing but win, and they just needed some teams to start losing to jump back in, and that kind of happened this week. So Portsmouth jumps in, and with a 7-2 record, beating pretty much everybody except the top 2 teams in Division II. They jumped into that 3rd spot. Number 2, Pilgrim. Like I said, they've only lost to East Greenwich and then beat everybody else, so they get that 2nd spot. And number 1, East Greenwich, they have to lose that spot because there's no reason to move them from that top spot. What do you think about these?
I think these are great. Yeah, I think East Greenwich, Pilgrim seem like the two of the toughest teams that play. Yeah, it's interesting. This Division Two is very, very top heavy. Anything's very interchangeable here. You got Tolman as well too. You got Cranston West. I mean, these some really good. This Division Two is really, really good too. It's another one I think that's kind of up in the air, but I think these look great to me. I think Lincoln definitely deserves to be in there. They're another team that's playing very good ball. Portsmouth had bounced back from those 2 losses that you mentioned, and Burrowville, a tough one, the first loss, but they're still in it. So
yeah, it's tough. It's tough. Like you mentioned, Tolman, Cranston West looking in. Wheeler's on the outside looking in. Wheeler, unfortunately, has only been able to play 3 league games, so that's kind of hurt them. They'll get those additional games in, hopefully. So if they end up going undefeated 5-0 in league play, then they'll somehow, some way end up in these rankings. But for now, I kind of had to leave them out because they haven't really played some of these guys. So, but they could easily be in there. Tolman only has 1 loss. It's tough that the 1 loss they had kind of knocks them out of the rankings, but they weren't that high in the rankings, so that 1 loss kind of does cost them. And then Cranston West, just another unfortunate loss at a tough time. They would have won. They would have easily been in there again. So we'll see how long these teams stay in there. There's 1 more week of games. We'll see what those matchups look like. But they're like I said, these rankings are starting to settle now. So
yeah, this is very good. All right, let's see what the playoff outlook, same thing with Division 2. Before we get into this is what it's going to look like before if the season were to end. Division 2 is a little bit different. It's the top 5 teams from each league within that division. And the 4 and the 5 seeds will be playing each other. So the 4 from the north would be playing the 5 seed from the south, and then vice versa for those seeds. And then it would be the 2 seed from the north versus the 3 seed from the south, vice versa, and then same thing. So it's very interesting. So let's see what the playoff outlet looks like. I'm sure. It's like winning percentage also plays a big deal into it too. So just to let everyone know. So here is our Division 2 playoff outlook. This is what it looks like. We have Lincoln at a 4 seed versus Rogers at a 5. Mount Hope as a number 4 seed versus Cranston West number 5. And then we have East Greenwich, who's the top seeds as well in the South, and they would have to play the winner of the 4 or 5. I'm stumbling. I don't know why I'm stumbling. Number 3 versus Portsmouth, and then number 2 Burrowville, who's in the north, and then number 1 Wheeler, who's in the north, and then number 3 Tolman, who's in the north, and then Pilgrim, who's in the south. So this is what it looks like. These are what the potential matchups are. What are your thoughts on these matchups? And could we see some shakeup, do you think, as well too?
No, definitely. And honestly, just looking at these matchups, I'm already excited. But it's funny how Wheeler only having 3 league games hurts them in the power rankings, but helps them in the playoff outlook because they're 3-0. So winning percentage wise, they have the best winning percentage possible. But I think depending on who they play to get those 5 league games, it'll see if they end up 5-0, then they deserve that top spot. But if they get a loss, it's gonna move around. But if the season was set today and these were the playoffs, I would not be upset. So again, just looking from the beginning, Lincoln versus Rogers, that would be Octavia Brito versus Rashawn Fleming. That would be amazing to watch. The other day watching Rashawn versus Tyreek Weeks, I just couldn't stop just watching them too, no matter where the ball was, and I would be doing the same in that 4-5 game. And then Portsmouth versus Burrowville, they haven't gotten to play each other, but it'll be good to see that matchup because I think that would be a great matchup between 2 tough teams. Tolman versus Pilgrim, Tolman, had 1 tough loss, but Pilgrim will be a tough matchup for them. And then, if you look ahead and somehow, some way ends up being, say just the top seeds advance, and you see East Greenwich versus Burrowville and Wheeler versus Pilgrim, that'll be amazing as well. So, these playoffs are going to be amazing. So I'm hoping everybody stays healthy and everybody can, play their games because this will be some amazing playoffs.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be a lot of fun to see these teams. And like you said, I think Wheeler right now 3-0, the winning percentage helps them to be the number 1 seed. To remind everyone, that's percentage that plays a factor into the playoffs as well too. So it helps them be the number 1 seed. But like you said, those things could change up, and I think it's going to be exciting to see a lot of these guys go up against each other. So I'm excited for these playoffs. All right, let's go to Division 1. All right, Our first game for Division One, we have Classical versus East Providence, and what was an upset. East Providence was able to pull up the upset, and they were led by Brian Taylor, who had 24 points, and then Trey, who also chipped in for 18. What are your thoughts on this game? Because this game is crazy. I can't believe Classical lost to East Providence by 11 points.
Yes, that's your number one team, Classical. And that was a great game. There's every so often there's certain games when there's these schedules come out that there's certain games I watch from beginning to end, and then I have the others in the background. This is one I was watching from beginning to end because it was just a great matchup. And honestly, Brian Taylor did what he's supposed to do. He was like, he's a man down there, kind of just grabbing rebounds, pushing people out of the way, scoring. But I was again just very, very impressed with the freshman point guard Trey Resendez. Like, fourth quarter when they had kind of like a good lead and they had to try to keep it. Classical put the pressure on. He was able to handle the ball. He was able to get a couple tough baskets. One, he kind of faked one way, took it to the basket, scored, and then the very next possession kind of had a step back and made a jump shot. Like, for a freshman to be even taking these shots, never mind making them, it's just been impressive. And then even towards the end, he was the one getting fouled, making the free throws to kind of steal the game. So if that young point guard, Brian Taylor, and the supporting cast can keep it going, they're going to be a tough matchup in the playoffs. They had a rough start, but they've been able to bounce back. So very big win. It doesn't hurt Classical's resume. I mean, it doesn't completely annihilate Classical's resume, right?
Yeah.
They've beat some really teams. It's just a tough loss against a team they should have beaten. So that kind of puts that mark on their resume. But Classical, they made a couple of runs, but EP was just able to bounce back.
Yeah. And like you said, I don't think Trey doesn't look like a freshman out there when he plays basketball. It's crazy.
Indeed.
It's gonna be good. Now let's go to Bishop Hendricken versus Barrington. This game went to overtime, and Bishop Hendricken was able to win this game by 10 in overtime. They made a big run in overtime to get past Barrington, and Barrington was led by Matt Rafa, who is another freshman who doesn't look like a freshman out there, who had a big game as well too. But Bishop Hendricken, we all know Bishop Hendricken. They're really tough. They have 5 interchangeable scores. This was a tough game. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, so this was Barrington's game to lose. They were kind of ahead the whole time, especially towards the end of the fourth quarter. They were on top, but those veterans from Bishop Hendricken kind of stepped up, and the coaching staff kind of just kept them focused. They made some tough shots. Barrington missed some free throws that they should have missed at the end, because you can point at different things, but at the end, it just came down to kind of a out of bounds play where, Cam Hughes was able to tip it in at the buzzer to send it over in overtime. And then in overtime, Hendricken just took over. Matt Rafa played amazing. He does take a lot of shots, but, he's gotten that responsibility as kind of the go-to guy on that team. And when it got tough at the end, he was the one who was able to kind of handle the ball and try to maneuver the press. Tough loss for Barrington. They've been able to play with a lot of the good teams. So they played they went to overtime with Hendricken. They played Mount Pleasant very close for most of the game and then ended up losing. So these are all games that they could have easily won, and their year would have been completely different. But they're that good that, they may be able to get over the hump, if they get into the playoffs.
Yeah, they look good. And then let's now jump to South Kingston versus the top team of LaSalle. LaSalle was able to, stay undefeated in Division One. They won this one 81-53 over SK, and they're led by Dimitri with 21 and Rafael with 18. I mean, what are your thoughts on LaSalle? They keep rolling.
Yeah, they keep rolling. And honestly, they've had an easier schedule than some of the other top teams. But hey, it's not their fault. They're playing whoever is put in front of them, right? And that backcourt is just, like I said, and some people get upset. That might be the best backcourt in Division One or in the state, in the RIL. Because Dimitri and Rafa, they just feed off each other so well. Dimitri's probably the best defensive player in the state. He's just that active. He makes it so tough when he's playing defense on, and then he could turn that into offense so quickly. So they keep winning the games they're supposed to. Can't really blame him for that. And then now that Classical lost, who was the other undefeated team, and Mount Pleasant lost as well. Regardless of how easy their schedule is, they're the only undefeated team in Division One. So it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, there's nothing you can really control at that point. And now we go to Providence Country Day School versus Narragansett. PCD was able to get the victory here, 64-60. PCD gets their first Division One over Narragansett in a close game. They're led by Brian Greenlees, who scored 29 points in the victory.
Yeah, so big win for PCD because honestly they've had a really tough year. Disappointing loss for Narragansett. Narragansett, they have some really good players that they need wins like this to be able to make sure they, one, they either get in the playoffs, and if they do get in the playoffs, get a better seeding because Division I playoffs are going to be tough. So big win for PCD. Brian was able to go off. I think they were missing a couple players, so he was able to kind of be the go-to guy. But yeah, I mean PCD, anything's possible. I don't know how many games they have left, but I mean, if they get a couple more wins, who knows if they can kind of sneak into the playoffs.
Yeah, maybe. We'll see what happens. And then our final game is Central versus Woonsocket. Central wins this one 69-55. Central able to get the victory. Central was led by Keelan James with 17 points and then improved their record to 3-4, while Woonsocket drops to 0-3. What are your thoughts on Central?
Yeah, so Central, got a good win. I think this was a good win for them to get. They need as many wins as they can get. Definitely, I have to admit, this is kind of one of the teams that I thought was going to have a tougher year than they're having. So I guess I was quote unquote sleeping on them because honestly, they've been playing better than I thought. I mean, they've lost some games against teams that are, I guess on paper better than them, but teams that they're supposed to be beating, they're beating. So that's a good thing. That's a good sign of a team that's getting better. And they have, at first I thought all they had was Jaden Levan on their team. They have more than that. So they have a couple good scorers and a couple good role players. So they're a legit team.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's see what you got for the power rankings. Let's see what the shakeup is. We know we had some interesting.
Okay, so Division I, definitely the toughest to figure out this week. A lot happened, but sometimes they say the more things change, the more they stay the same. Might have been the case in Division I this week. So just to kind of put it in perspective, out of the top 5 teams, the number 2, number 3, number 4 teams, well, the number 2 and the number 3 teams lost. So you would think, they're automatically going to move down because they lost. But then, it was the 4th team that beat one of them, and then the 5th team beat another. But then does that put them ahead of the ones they beat, or does it? A lot to think about here. So I kept going back and forth figuring this out. So East Providence with a big win over Classical kind of solidifies their spot in Division I. They stay at the number 5th spot. I know they had a big win this week against Classical, but there's still those other losses on your resume that kind of keep you from moving up. So big win, and honestly, if another team loses this week, it might put you ahead of them. But for now, it keeps you in that 5th spot, which there's nothing wrong with that. Division I is tough. 4th spot goes to Mount Pleasant. They lost this week. It was the first time I kept saying I wanted to see Mount Pleasant play a tough team. They played Hendricken this week, and they ended up losing to Hendricken. So it kind of shows that just kind of drops them a spot. Could have dropped them more, but I think they've had a good year the rest of the year. So I think it's kind of at least drops them one spot. So now for the 3rd spot, the top 3 spots, I guess it's no secret. We have either LaSalle, either Classical, either Hendricken, right? So this is where it gets a little tricky, right? Because Classical beat Hendricken early in the year, but Classical lost this week. Hendricken didn't lose this week and beat another top 5 team this week. So is it enough to jump Hendricken over Classical? Does LaSalle keep that top spot because now they're the only undefeated team? Lot to figure out here. So the big decision was between Hendricken and Classical, right? So yes, we know Classical beat Hendricken head-to-head by 3 points, but Hendricken won this week and Classical lost. So does Classical stay at number 2 even though they lost? No, Classical drops down 1 spot after they lost to East Providence. Obviously, they lost against the 5th ranked team, where Hendricken before lost to Classical and dropped 3 spots after that loss. Classical is only dropping 1 spot. That puts Hendricken at number 2 as they're climbing back to that top spot they had at the beginning of the year, and LaSalle at number 1. So obviously there's going to be a lot of controversy between that number 2 and number 3 spot because Classical is going to say how we beat Hendricken head-to-head.
Yeah.
But it's relative, right? So what did you do this week? This week, Classical lost. This week, Hendricken had 2 big wins. So that's the reason why that happened.
Yeah, these look good to me. I mean, yeah, it's a very interesting. It's those top 3 teams are very, very interesting for sure. It's a tough decision. I don't know how you make them sometimes, but but yeah, I think you made the right choice. I mean, like you said, it's based out the week, and Hendricken won, Classical lost, and LaSalle remains undefeated, and Mount Pleasant lost. So I think this all looks good to me. I don't know. Is there anyone on the outside looking in that you had a tough choice between East Providence and anyone?
Yeah, well, I think it's tough for East Providence having had such a big win and then they just stay on the 5th spot. They're probably like, wait, did that win not mean anything?
Yeah.
But it did mean a lot because there's teams looking from the outside in that could have taken that spot if you would have lost the Classical. So Cumberland's looking from the outside in. North Kingston had another tough loss this week against Smithfield, which kind of just dropped them out of the top 5 consideration because that was a really tough loss. But definitely Cumberland could have snuck in there if East Providence hadn't beat Classical.
Yeah.
So for the state rankings, obviously, as we always say, these kind of work themselves out. But LaSalle stays at the top spot. They haven't done anything to lose that. Hendricken moves up 2 spots, like we mentioned over the, a couple big wins this week. Classical drops 1. Mount Pleasant drops 1. East Greenwich stays in their 5th spot. They haven't done anything to lose that 5th spot, but also I wouldn't say they've done anything, or any of those D1 teams ahead of them haven't done anything, haven't had a loss so bad that it'll put East Greenwich over them. So then East Providence stays on their 6th spot. Again, big win. Should be definitely happy that you had that big win. Don't be discouraged for the fact that you stayed in the same spot in the power rankings. Pilgrim jumps up 1 spot. They've been winning. Portsmouth goes from not ranked to the 8th spot. They've been doing that good. Then Lincoln jumps in there. And then that 10th spot, Burville's been that good recently. That's a tough loss they had. It's only by 1 point, so they could have taken that spot, or it could have been, a Division I team looking at. So Cumberland gets that 10th, stays in that 10th spot. They're a team who somehow, some way, with missing a lot of their good players, have been able to still win some games. So I keep Cumberland in that 10th spot, but it could have easily been Burville.
Nice. Wow. Yeah, this is good. I think these look good. Now, what do you think those Division III teams? Do you think they had a chance to make it in there? Or?
So to be honest with you, if ×2 played Davies this week, and say one beat the other convincingly to show like they're that much better than every Division III team, this could have been the week where they could have snuck into the state rankings, because I think Cumberland kind of just sneaks in there by default. They've been playing good, but I think it could have been an opportunity for a Division III team to get in there right before the end of the year. But ×2 and Davies don't play each other, so we still don't know which one is the real alpha dog in Division III. So.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, these are great. These look great. It's going to be interesting. And it's too bad we didn't have a state tournament, but this is awesome. That this looks really good.
Yep. So let's see what the playoff picture would look like.
Yeah, I know. Let's take a look at that playoff picture for Division I. What it looks like so far. Obviously there could be some shakeup, like we mentioned. Same thing. Division I is the same thing as Division II. For the playoffs, if 4 and 5 plays North or South. So the 4 seed for South plays the 5 seed for North, and then vice versa. So this is what it looks like right now. Obviously, it could be some shakeup. So you have number 4 East Providence plays number 5 Westerly from the South. You got a number 4 for Central, and number 5 Smithfield. They end up playing against each other, and then LaSalle, who's in the North, plays the winner of the 4-5. We have number 3. Cumberland, and then number 2 Classical, and then we have Bishop Hendricken, winner 4-5, and then North Kingston, and then Mount Pleasant. So what are your thoughts on these matchups? I think these are some crazy matchups.
Yeah, I'm looking ahead of this, and I'm just, this will be some great matchups, and I think we've seen in the rankings kind of the same 4, 5, 6 teams kind of stay in those rankings for Division I, and I think that's how it's going to end up shaking out anyways in the final four for Division I. So it'll be interesting to see. I think it'll be good to see, say, East Providence beats Westerly, and East Providence has to play LaSalle. That'll be good to see that again. And then Cumberland versus Classical would be good. But then just looking at a potential semifinal matchup between LaSalle and Classical, if the favorites were to win, that'll be a legit test for LaSalle to see if they're really that good when going against Classical. And then in the bottom side of that bracket, man, North Kingston versus Mount Pleasant, that's a tough, first round matchup where North Kingston is really good, Mount Pleasant is really good. Just sucks they have to play each other right away. So that'll be a great matchup to watch. And then, Hendricken versus the winner of Central Smithfield will be as well. Like if Central gets in there and then see Central versus Hendricken again, I think that'll be good. But no, I mean, just if the favorites win and we see LaSalle's Classical and Hendricken versus Mount Pleasant, nobody will be disappointed.
No, definitely not. I think this is going to be great playoffs. The Division One definitely could be must-watch TV as well too. And those 4 or 5 seeds are pretty much up for grabs. So there's quite a few other teams outside looking in too as well. So depends what happens with the upcoming 2 weeks with everything that's going to happen. So this is pretty interesting what's going to happen here.
No, definitely, and yeah, there's some more shakeup. That'll be interesting to see how these change. But yeah, this is pretty close to we're pretty close to the end. So this could be a lot of the matches we end up seeing. So this would be amazing to watch.
Yeah, very excited, very excited. Yeah, we can do that. All right, so that's our show for today. For the morning Sunday recap show. Obviously, playoffs could change up by next week. We'll look forward to see what happens with next week. Everything power rankings could change by next week. We don't know anything could happen. But Ramon, I appreciate your time as always. Like you had mentioned last show, everyone just wear your mask so we can have these playoffs and everything, make it happen. And all those teams in there, like right there, definitely wear your mask, be safe, and keep yourself in a bubble pretty much if you have to. Yeah.
Yes. And next week's show being the last show, the show after the regular season is over. So, it'll be the final power rankings for the season. Obviously, we still mess with the power rankings in the playoffs, but that'll be the last regular season power rankings. And then we'll also give out some season awards. So look out for MVP for each league, freshman of the year, big man of the year, guard of the year, things like that we always give out. So we'll do those next week. So it's a very big show next week. So tune in for sure.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next Sunday.